For Sunday, September 20th, you found the Georgia Gang. Topping our agenda today, River City. Could there be gambling right here? It's a bridge too far to the new Braves Stadium. And Carly Fiorina trumps the Donald in the debate. Some of the stories up for grabs on the Georgia Gang.
From the Fox 5 studios, the Georgia Gang starts now.
And we're glad you could be with us. We are joined today by Saba Long, a fresh face on the broadcast. Glad you could be here.
Glad to be here.
You're a media strategist. I think we now have 3 media strategists and 1 media here. Maybe I'm the medium. Anyway, welcome, Saba. Glad to have you here.
Thank you.
I have thought that the idea of casino gambling was rather far-fetched for Georgia. But watching the Dog and Pony Show this week, the orchestrated hearings, looking at some of the arguments, and Phil, I'm going to start with you. I think the fix is in. I think casino gambling is on its way to Georgia if the voters agree.
I'm not that optimistic. I think there's going to be a lot of studies down the road to see the impact of casino gambling, and I think obviously the media and the legislature and the people are going to be watching what these studies are. As you know, this past week we had on Monday and Tuesday the first hearings by this joint committee to study casino gambling, yes, and also the impact on the lottery, and also, which everybody is interested in, the impact on the Hope Scholarship, because as you know, the lottery funds pre-K and these scholarships. So, Dick, this is going to go on throughout the year. They're going to have some more hearings next month in Savannah. You're going to be studying other states, for instance, like Maryland, to see if you have casino gambling, will that cannibalize the lottery? In other words, will some lottery players stop doing the lottery and go over to casino gambling? I don't know the answer.
I think the idea, Alexis, of casino gambling has been sort of unthinkable in Georgia.
Just as the lottery once was.
Right. Well, former Commissioner Rob Pitts in Fulton County, kind of a lone voice.
Right.
We had the late Harry Geisinger, a lone voice for parimutuel betting on horse races.
Right.
Now, all of a sudden, there's a train leaving the station, and top dogs in the gaming industry, including the head of MGM, did this very well orchestrated set of hearings laying out the jobs and the numbers. I thought, and remember now, Governor Deal has said that if the people approve it, he won't block it.
He wouldn't stand in the way.
What do you think?
Yeah, I think there has been an evolution since the first discussions about the lottery that were passed under Governor Zell Miller 100 years ago, right? And but the thing that tipped the balance was the fact that the monies would be used for Hope scholarships to pay college tuition. And I think that if they do the same thing, then I think the skids are being greased for this to happen.
Saba, you're a younger generation than the rest of us. The 3 of us remember the days when casino gambling would have been unthinkable in the state of Georgia. It wouldn't happen. I sense that younger voters used to the lottery, as Alexis mentioned, have no problem at all.
No problem at all. If the voters want it, let the voters have it. Obviously, the state needs revenue. Hope Scholarship needs revenue. But we should also be talking about is perhaps the cost of tuition is too much, right? So every year, tuition goes up at a rate that's much higher than any other bill that you would pay. And why is that? Perhaps we should curb that.
It exceeds the number of lottery
Well,
tickets
you're making a very good point. And there's got to be a freeze. I've argued this over the last year. There's got to be a freeze in tuition. We've had, 5 straight years. We're pricing our young people out of good college educations.
Right, and also the Obama administration has proposed making the community college or 2-year colleges and technical schools tuition free to the students, with the taxpayers picking up the tab. And
be careful of that crazy word "free," quote unquote. It's still being supported by you and me and the taxpayers.
That's what I said.
But if the first 2 years are free, that gets you a start, and then the next 2 years you can have a job and you've got some education behind you, and it's a lot easier to make that work.
I don't know. I keep thinking of when the U.S. Virgin Islands eliminated welfare. The headline in the paper down there was, "The freeness is over." And ain't nothing free, is the point I'm trying to make. Well, anyway, the scope of this whole thing surprised me. I noticed this week that our jobless rate, unemployment rate, is down to 5.9%. One of the things that was impressive in this whole gambling thing, we're talking about 20,000 jobs?
Well, that's right. That's the MGM company that's come in here with this great presentation. That's one of their big hooks. But I'm not sure. If MGM hadn't come here, I don't think there'd be any interest in casino gambling.
But I think it's greased.
Well, I do too, and I think it's going to happen. And
what do you mean by that?
Well, the MGM plan would have more than one casino. It would be throughout the state, right? A handful.
Right. They're talking about zones. So
Right.
2 in the
throughout
metro
state.
and a couple in Savannah and so
Right,
forth.
and I think that people will support it.
But you see,
because
no one has
it is
studied
an economic
that.
development.
No one has studied that. I'm not sure that 6 locations, and the legislators don't know this either. It's been proposed and written in this Ron Stevens bill, but I'm not so sure any studies have been done that would support 6 locations. Atlanta, yes, I would agree with that.
Savannah area,
I would
Columbus.
agree with that. Yeah.
And I think Savannah would benefit greatly.
Absolutely.
from
Yeah. Okay, but
Absolutely.
there's 3. Other than that,
Well, something on the border with that heads toward North
well,
Carolina.
what they're doing is the MGM is throwing this all out, and it sounds wonderful. And I'm not saying that there's not some good points to it, but my point is it's got to be studied.
And that's
How do
valid,
you
but they-
study it without it happening? I mean, what are you going to
Well, you
pretend
have other
casino?
states.
Well, absolutely, and other states have had tremendous economic development around the casinos.
But you
Tremendous.
put a proposal out, and you ask for as much as you can get, knowing that the legislator's going to whittle that down.
But you're right.
That's a good point. Let me change the subject. We'll come back to my favorite topic, DeKalb County. We can't live without DeKalb County. And this week, Sherry Boston, the Solicitor General of DeKalb County, that means she's the prosecutor for misdemeanors and that sort of thing in state court. She's a former municipal judge in Dunwoody. I know her well. She is going to challenge Robert James. We've talked about that, but she made it official. Now, this is an election in 2016. We're getting well ahead of ourselves.
It's a Democratic primary.
In a Democratic primary, but I think Sherry Boston is going to be a formidable candidate against Robert James.
Well, I don't disagree with you. I think there has been a lot of, how do you want to say it?
Angst.
Angst, okay, that's a good word. We'll go with angst about some of the activity that has or has not gone on with Robert James as the DA in DeKalb County.
Well, I agree. I like Sherry Boston too, and I think you'll see a lot of people of a lot of different political stripes voting for her. In fact, I did hear that Robert James has had 2 fundraisers and virtually no one has showed up.
And
I hadn't
Elena
heard that,
Parent
but-
is her chair, her treasurer.
But I think what Sherry Boston, where she struck a chord with me, was when she reminded people of what I've been saying every week on this broadcast, that there was a grand jury report several years ago which singled out 6 people in DeKalb that ought to be investigated or prosecuted or both, and he's done nothing with those. He's only done Burl Ellis, who was not the subject of the
Right.
original grand jury investigation. Fulton County, a blast from the past. Bill Edwards, the longtime commissioner who got forced out. This is interesting. The State Ethics Commission says that he's $80,000 short in accounting for his campaign money. Looks kind of like maybe that went to Bill, but this week he said, nope, didn't do it, but he didn't submit any paperwork. How do you do that? How do you answer a complaint?
That's a routine problem with elected officials, is not updating their paperwork.
Yeah, but 80,000
But
bucks.
it's not right.
Definitely.
Well, that is a lot of money, and I think, well, it was raised for his campaigns, and so he lost, so he just needs to give him the paperwork.
All right.
I mean, what?
Yeah, well, he's going to need a lot of receipts, I think, on $80,000. All right. When we come back, the sheriff in Gwinnett County makes Phil happy. We'll be right back.
Have a question or comment for the Georgia Gang? Visit their website at fox5atlanta.com.
Sheriff Butch Conway in Gwinnett County roiled the waters this week by taking on the Black Lives Matter crowd. And of course, he had the commonsensical, everyday notion that, of course, all lives matter. Should that even be up for discussion? Phil, I mean, why did he even have to say that? Everybody knows all lives matter except a bunch of black radicals.
That is the point.
Please,
That
no.
is the point, and I would hope that reasonable voices in the black community would agree with Sheriff Butch Conway, because yes, that is all he's saying. He's pointing out, and I think you would have to agree, there's certain radical elements that hate the police, and you had a police officer just in Birmingham last month pistol whipped by his own pistol by some thug, and he said, you know, normally I would have intervened and arrested him first, but I was afraid. I was afraid of the repercussions. This is
Oh,
a
please.
terrible
A
thing.
police officer at the U.S. Open profiled James Blake, a professional tennis player, tackled him, didn't ask him any questions, and
Terrible
assumed
thing.
that he was a suspect.
But you know, even Sheriff Conway said no one condones abuse by law enforcement. No one has ever condoned that. But I would hope reasonable voices would speak out against this police hatred. And Black Lives Matter
Look,
is calling for the death of police officers.
That's
And that's
absolutely,
Conway's point.
Well, that is not an accurate description of what the Black Lives
You
Matter
don't hear they're
movement is
chanting
about.
for the death of officers?
That may be some splinter people or some
Oh,
people who are
okay.
not part of, but the
Okay.
organized movement of Black Lives Matter is calling attention to the police
But you condemn
brutality and the.
you condemn the
If all
advocating
lives
violence.
mattered, then we wouldn't be having this conversation.
We shouldn't be having this conversation. That's
Listen,
the point.
It's double the number of blacks that are shot by police. Whites are the ones that are shot by police. Now there are
And
blacks,
whites are
but-
more likely to shoot a police officer than a black
and
person.
why is that? Because over 50% of all crimes are committed by black males.
And
58% of violent crimes, to be precise, nationally, are committed by black males.
And this is the problem.
Well,
Let's address
well,
that.
But the problem is an historic problem. It didn't just happen this week or last year. The problem dates back to the beginning of when black people came to this
You know,
country.
we could
or were
argue.
brought
We could
here
argue about
under
that all day. But the
chains
point is, we need
and
law and
enslaved.
order.
Yes, we do need law and order, but we need justice as well.
You know where Black Lives Matter, where they should be protesting? Planned Parenthood.
What?
That's where Black Lives Matter.
Because of the abortion of
Because
black
of the
babies.
abortion of black babies.
And, well, I think that is mixing apples and oranges. These are two different conversations, and it's very easy for you to do that, but it has nothing to do with the Black Lives Matter movement.
All lives matter. It's just so
Absolutely
simple.
they do, but if, as Saba said, that if that had been the case, then we wouldn't have this kind of movement going on.
All right, let's go
But
to
the
our,
court system should be addressing this, not radicals in the streets.
let's go to our ritual beatdown of Cobb Commission Chairman Tim Lee. Sorry, Chairman Lee, it's your turn in the barrel. This week, the bridge to the new Braves Stadium was postponed. It won't be ready when the Braves begin playing ball, if you can call it ball, the way they're playing, at SunTrust Park in Cobb County. When we met with the chairman, we thought the thing was pretty much done. Not going to happen, huh?
Well, remember, Alexis, when we visited with Chairman Lee, we all laughed at the estimate of the bridge.
9 million?
Yes, we knew that that was too low, and almost everybody did. So, and now, yes, it's not going to be ready for the opening
It's not the cost,
Brave
really.
season.
It's the Galleria.
Right.
Well, that's right. The Galleria, and I don't blame the Galleria. I mean, they're very worried about the impact. They have to spend millions upgrading their parking lot to reinforce it if they're going to have the
And
the
not only
tram.
that, it would detract from the people shopping in the Galleria. They
Right.
would just walk over the bridge or take the circulator bus ride over the bridge to the shops in
Well, I
the
think the key
SunTrust
thing
Plaza.
was a quote from Bob Voiles, the developer, who made the point that they're going to build another big hotel there. And they've got major development plans on that side of 285.
Well, I
And the
drive
bridge would mess
drive
that
by
up.
there almost every day, and they are now, I don't know if this has been announced, they're now adding 2 new parking decks. You remember, Alexis, when we
Right.
asked them, they had 14 entry points. Where's all the parking? Now all of a sudden they've decided, hey, we need 2 more.
All right,
So,
let's
we'll
turn
see.
our sights to DeKalb. Sometimes I wonder if I really live there. I'm just dreaming it. But they're now talking. They're now talking about Lee May's notion, the interim CEO's notion of a downtown DeKalb with hotels, mixed-use development, and all that.
and moving the jail.
It would be the first mixed-use component,
Hesse
mixed-use
jail.
project with a component called a jail.
Well, they're talking about
You'd have
moving
the jail view apartments, the jail view condominiums.
Maybe they can change the facade of the jail to make it look more attractive.
There you go.
With
Maybe
palm
that-
trees and things like
Exactly.
okay.
But they're talking about actually moving the jail. According to the report that I read on Friday, that they would just move it or convert it to apartments and not be the jail anymore.
Now, Phil, you mentioned to me, and right by that project, isn't there some burned out thing that needs remedial work?
Absolutely, and you know, this goes back to what we discussed last week with the refugee problem in DeKalb County, and how, to their credit, the bipartisan DeKalb legislative delegation says, wait a minute, we need to stop this. And this starry-eyed liberal mayor of Clarkston, Ted Terry, He doesn't get it. You drive right down off Memorial Drive and you'll see these poor Somali refugees living in a burned out condo complex. It's a no entry area by the police. It's a disservice to these refugees. They go on welfare. They're not policed. It's controlled by a gang, I'm told, by law enforcement. Nothing is done about it. Is this the America we want to live in?
Well, we certainly don't want people to be living in condemned buildings and stuff like that, but I think there is something to be said for many of the refugees who have been here and have become successful, opening their own businesses, contributing to the tax.
But that's not the point. We can't take anymore.
I think that Mayor Clarkston is right. Obviously,
to bring in more and put them in communities like this?
That's the American dream. You come to America to move away from whatever disaster you were trying to get rid of.
So we import poverty.
Look at how many successful businesses that have been started by immigrants.
There are some.
Chobani
yes,
Yogurt.
There are some.
Billion-dollar company started by an immigrant who came to the U.S. with $20 in his pocket.
But you agree that we can't have these poor people shuffled off into these communities.
I think it's our duty to help them.
Plus, they are followed by federal dollars to help relocate
for
them.
1 year, and then the studies show they go on welfare. We can't afford this.
It's not a question of whether we bring in refugees. That's not the question. The question is how much is too much. And even Germany has decided this past week,
right,
it's too much. We're not going to do it anymore. We got to get out. When we come back, we're going to talk 2 stories about higher education. Of course, that great Republican debate this week, Carly Rocks. Stay with us.
Have a question or comment for the Georgia Gang? Visit their website at fox5atlanta.com.
Before we turn to presidential politics, a couple of notes on higher education. As we taped last week, we were unaware that James Wagner, the president of Emory University, was stepping down. By all accounts, he's been a terrific president. He's grown the endowment. He's grown the enrollment. The university is tied with Georgetown for number 21 in the U.S. News rankings. However, he did preside over one of the greatest scandals in higher education, and that was the dummying of admission statistics. And I don't think that's something Emory's going to overcome anytime soon. But Wagner's been a good president.
I agree he was a good president. It is one of the top universities, and just the U.S. News and World Report rankings came out, and we all should be proud of our 3 top schools,
right.
Tech and Georgia and Emory.
Right, and I think that that particular problem with the faking the records, I don't think that's going to dampen the contribution that he made while he was there. And plus, most people have forgotten about it.
Well, I think they've cleaned it up.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, they did. They did, but still, it was just, you know, I'm one who's been involved in college admissions for a long time. That was a really sorry moment in higher education. Now, in higher education, Georgia Regents University is about to go away. We hardly knew ye. I mean, it just got here. Georgia Regents University in Augusta is now to be renamed Augusta University. Phil, those are your old stomping grounds.
Well, that's right.
How much does that cost to change that again?
Well, millions of dollars wasted down the rat hole, but 2012 was when the 2 schools merged, the Medical College of Georgia and Augusta State University. And my old newspaper, the Augusta Chronicle, did fiery editorials saying it was a slap in the face. They lost the name of Augusta. Many of the people were upset with their diplomas that no longer identified with Augusta. The Regents, of course, named it after themselves, which didn't go over well. Right. And now, in a complete turnaround, last week, the board unanimously said, okay, we're going to call it Augusta University, and there's a new president now, and rightly so. They felt that he could get better community support. A lot of people were holding money from the school.
Yeah. Well, it also gives you a sense of place. I'm surprised they didn't rename it Augusta Medical School University or something like that, but.
Well, yeah, medical should be in there, or science, or something. I don't.
Yeah. You make a good point.
But also there was the problem of Pat Robertson and his Regents University up in Virginia.
They didn't like the name.
Right.
Yeah.
That bothered me from day one. Or we're confusing things here. All right, let's turn to politics. This was the week of the second major Republican debate. It was 3 hours long.
It was exhausting. It was
much too long.
Yeah. Now, Saba, you're much younger than I. 3 hours?
Did
we need that?
No. I was on my iPad, I was on my laptop, I was on my phone. It's like, this thing is still going on.
Well, they wanted money. CNN wanted money. They filled it up. They had an extra 45 minutes with all those ads. So that was a bonanza for them. But I agree with you. It's too long.
And the candidates looked uncomfortable at some point as well.
Yeah,
They did.
they did look tired at the end, and I think they were exhausted.
And it was unfair. Some of the candidates didn't get a chance. I don't know how
Well,
they did.
the other thing that it was interesting to me how they worded the question. So-and-so said this, what do you
Yeah.
think about that? And it did sort of make them turn on each other as opposed to actually talking
And that was
about
where CNN wanted to have the ratings. A fight always promotes ratings.
Well, one of the panelists was my friend Hugh Hewitt, the radio host.
Right.
And I think he got 2 questions,
Yeah,
maybe.
they didn't
It was
need the
hardly
2.
like he was there.
And
Right.
Jake Tapper it seemed like he was trying to herd cats at one point. There's
Yeah.
too many people talking.
All right, but I think we can take away some points from that. First of all, it was gang up on Donald Trump time.
Right.
And Donald Trump, I've now decided my opinion of him.
Which is, let's hear it.
He's like some kid in middle school who leads the class at recess in insults. The gratuitous attack at the opening on Rand Paul, other just crazy, it's just wow. He's not an adult in a room full of adults. That's my take.
Well, I agree with you. I think that's his weakness. I think no one really likes the insults, but he has done a good service for the Republican Party. I've said this before. He brought 24 million people to the first debate. They want to see a celebrity. That's television,
And
whether
they
you like
say
it or
he
not.
brought almost 23 to the
23 to
the big
CNN.
highest ratings they've ever had.
And so a lot of
period.
people have never been exposed to the Republican conservative message.
Well, I think Carly Fiorina did herself a lot of good. I think she was very strong. Alexis, do you agree with that?
I think she was very strong, and I think I see why she got fired. Because she's too strong, and she didn't have facts
Oh,
to
I
back up a
can't-
lot of the things that she said.
I don't know. I
She
would
was
push
making
back
stuff up.
against
She
that.
was put.
She
What do you
had
think,
she had
Saba?
great sound bites for one.
Yeah.
Whoever wrote her sound bites did a great job. But why would we say a woman is too strong? I thought she did a great job in the debate.
Well, I thought she was hideous, and I thought she called people liars. She said there was film or video of twitching babies being harvested for their body parts, which no
That
one
was
has
a
been able to
powerful
produce.
moment. That
But
was
it
a
doesn't
powerful
exist.
moment.
It does not exist. The footage does not
Have you
exist.
seen the videos? That's what she was saying. Watch the videos from Planned Parenthood.
But none of those videos exist in Planned Parenthood that she
All right.
referenced.
Marco Rubio moved up, I think, a little bit. We got to get out of here. Phil, do you have a winner or a loser in that debate?
You know, I do think Carly Fiorina will get a bump in the polls, but I think Marco Rubio acquitted himself well, as did Chris Christie.
What about Jeb Bush?
Jeb didn't do well, low energy.
It really is.
That's
Jeb
the
Bush,
Energizer
Jeb Bush is
code
almost
name.
disappearing before our eyes. I hate to say that.
Dick, when he said that John Roberts was a good guy, that most conservatives probably got nauseated.
Yeah,
Well,
that's when you
but
needed that
he
bathroom
had
break.
to stand up again for his brother who appointed him, right?
That was a
Of
good
course.
line.
That was a good
Well, it
line.
was right. His brother kept us safe. All right, when we come
Except
back.
that 9/11
Except that
happened
he
on his
didn't.
brother's watch. That made the least sense of all.
Well, all right, when we come back, the winners and losers overall. Stay with us.
Time now for the week's winners and losers.
And don't forget us on Facebook and all the other social media. We're there. We're there for you, Georgia. All right, Alexis, let's go to you first.
Okay, I will start with a salute to Cabral Franklin. He was former Mayor Shirley Franklin's son who passed this past week from lung cancer, and a terrible loss to the community. He was a wonderful family man and a political servant. He sort of inherited the best of both his parents and involved in politics here as a consultant in Atlanta. He'll be missed. Also, I want to congratulate Barbara, and I want to make sure I'm saying the name right. Well, I'm not going to say it because I can't say it right, but the new director of the Atlanta Symphony. Help me.
I can't remember her last name either. She comes from the Cleveland
From the
Orchestra.
Cleveland Orchestra, so I'll do that better next week. I can't read my own writing. And then finally, I've got to side with Ahmed Mohammed, the teen in Texas who was arrested for bringing a clock to school because they thought it was a bomb. But it has catapulted him to fame and hopefully fortune and more support for his scientific work.
All right, and let's go to you, Phil.
Well, I've got to make Betty Cantrell the winner of, she's a Mercer University singer, Miss Georgia, now Miss America, crowned this week. And, you know, she can drive a tractor and plow a field and shoot a shotgun.
And sing opera.
She's a great,
Sing opera.
that's right.
She's a Georgia gal.
And you know, a little shout out to Clayton State University. We talked a little bit about the need for STEM employees and science. They just opened up a brand new science facility. They need that in the South Metro area for
All right,
jobs.
Saba, what do you have?
Fantastic. My winner is Atlanta Regional Commission. They have since March convened millennials across the 10-county region, and Monday everyone made their pitches to the ARC board, and there are some really good ideas about regionalism, transit, and making Metro Atlanta a more livable community. And I would just echo, Alexis, what you said about Cabral, and our prayers to former Mayor Franklin and Candace and the two kids.
All right, we got to get out. Can't leave without saying nice words about Ed Baker, the longtime publisher of the Atlanta Business Chronicle, one of Atlanta's great journalists. I mean that. And he's almost like a direct heir to the late, great Furman Bisher. Ed Baker leaving to teach at Georgia State University. It's a loss to journalism in this town, but a real bonus for that university. We'll see you next week on The Georgia Gang.
The opinions expressed in this broadcast are those of the panelists appearing in this program.